Okay, so we talked about Houston deciding centers don't matter. Now we're going to talk about the center they traded to the Hawks, Clint Capela. The Hawks got their guy. This was their way to improve the team. They traded the Nets pick. They traded Evan Turner's expiring. They still have Chandler Parsons expiring. Who knows what they can do with that? They do have the OKC pick in 2022. There's a chance Atlanta is not done. But they did make a splash here. I mean, the immediate thing you think about is the Capela-Collins frontcourt. Can it work? Well, they both can roll. They both can set screens. Collins has got more stuff off the dribble than Capela does. The obvious reason to do this is because you don't think Collins can be a defensive guy for you at center, which I think is fair. I mean, he's definitely talented, and I think he's got potential for weak side blocks and defending perimeter players and switching and stuff like that. But in terms of rim protection and size and length, that's not exactly Collins' forte defensively. So you hope Capela can be that guy for you. You do have two bigs who you'd think can switch. I mean, Capela on his best days has looked like a guy who can defend a few positions. I think this makes Trae Young's pick and roll very interesting because now it's two guys who can screen for him. One thing, though, is you can trap Trae Young on a Capela screen. I don't really think you can do that on a Collins screen. Collins is talented enough to make you pay for that. Granted, he still needs to make progress as a playmaker, but he's better than Capela. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But the ways that a Capela... I talked about the Trae Young pick and roll. I do want to get back to the Collins thing, though. Collins can space out for Capela because Collins has been doing a bit of work off the, from three this season. I think he projects to be a pretty damn good outside shooter. Not amazing, but good enough. I think he's at like 35% on like 4 a game right now. His form looks pretty good. His free throws are good. That'll give you some spacing, of course. Again, he can go off the dribble. So the ideal 4 next to Capela would be someone with a pretty balanced offensive game, which Collins has. We assume Collins is not going to get traded. That's been out there a little bit. We'll have to see. But I don't really think that'll happen. I don't think they should do that. So yeah, now we move on to what does this mean for Trae Young, besides the obvious thing of he's setting screens and throwing lobs for Capela. Well, it probably makes him happy, which is great. I mean, I don't really think we're anywhere close to a Trae Young wants out of Atlanta scenario. But I think it's good to have your star player actually be happy, so that's good. Trae was oftentimes having screens set for him by Alex Len, not the most athletic guy in the world. Dwayne Dedmon, similar. Capela definitely has more athleticism than those guys have, and you would think that it's the ideal thing where Capela can set screens and just Trae Young can do a bunch of stuff off of that, and Collins can benefit off of that as well, and then Herter and whoever you want the other wing to be can make plays off of it as well. That's the idea, right? Can it work? We'll have to see, but I think the template is there for it working. The other thing to do this, and I mentioned earlier the defense, is you would hope that Capela can be your defensive foundation. I mean, I think when you have Trae Young, you're going to need size pretty much everywhere else, but you're also going to need versatility. You're going to need to be able to just do a lot of stuff because smart teams are going to find ways to go at Trae Young, and it's going to help if Capela can switch, if Collins can switch, if Herter can switch, and you can just continually hide Trae Young on the worst offensive player on the opposing team. So, cool. We hope Capela can also be a rim protector and be a vocal defensive leader. This should also help their rebounding because Atlanta, point blank, just sucks at rebounding. It's the only way to put it. I mean, they're okay at offensive rebounding, but they're 27th in defensive rebounding, which is way more important, and overall rebound percentage. So we hope Capela can solve that. The other thing is, we can talk about that offensive rebounding a little bit more. The Collins-Capela frontcourt could be kind of devastating dealing with them on the offensive boards. I figure if Collins is determined and just attacking the glass, which he's been doing a bit of, he is grabbing basically 3 offensive rebounds a game for his career. Him and Capela combined, that could be a lot of offensive boards for Atlanta, and that could be pretty difficult to deal with when you're already trying to stop Trae Young, who is of course a great combination of shooting and playmaking. So that's the hope. And I think the thing for Atlanta that they will probably like the most about all this is they didn't really give that much up for Capela. I mean, that Nets pick, maybe it ends up becoming amazing, but this draft is not supposed to be that great. Even so, I bet it'll end up being still pretty decent because, there's 60 players. There's no way they all suck. You know what I mean? But I have heard nonetheless that this draft is not great, and the other thing is Capela doesn't cost that much. I mean, Clint Capela right now is making, $15 million? He's making 16.4, and his contract ends after the 2023 season at 19.5. So, next season, the Hawks are still going to have a crap ton of cap space, even with Capela, because they've just got all these rookie contract guys, pretty much. Now, if we look at 2022, it's going to be a little more interesting. We don't know what they're going to do in the offseason, so it makes it a little tougher. But at that point, Collins will be making 20+ million. Then you're 1 year out of maxing Trae Young. So, 4 years from now, this team will have a regular NBA team salary, but that's fine. That's what's supposed to happen if you want to win games. So, I'm not too alarmed with that one. But again, we're going to have to see what they do in the offseason. I mean, it'll be interesting to see, how quickly do they want this to go? I mean, do they want to be competing for the postseason next year? Because there's an avenue in which they are between Trae Young, Collins, Capela, and then whatever they do in free agency, because they're still going to have a lot of money to play with. And then you hope between Herter, Hunter, maybe Jabari. I mean, he's on a player option. He might decline it because he's been pretty good this year, although he has been hurt lately, so we don't totally know what he's going to do. But basically, the makings of a team are here. So we'll just have to see how they go moving forward. But yeah, Capela to Atlanta. I guess the way this doesn't work is if Capela's just actually not that good. He's fine, but he's not worth the money. I mean, is there a chance that 2 years from now, Atlanta will be asking themselves what Houston was asking themselves all this season, which is, do we really need this guy? Or are we going to gamble on center by committee? Although Houston, they're kind of losing their minds with the small ball, which I touched on in that video. But it's once again, what are centers worth? All that stuff. But there's also a chance this goes very well, and their defense is better, their rebounding is better, and Trae Young has another dude to throw alley-oops to, and Atlanta could be good next year. If they are, then the East will get very interesting, because the East is already better than I think we thought it was going to be. So, but who knows? That we're a little ways away from that. I don't think they really have a chance of getting into the playoffs this season. I mean, if we create a scenario where they just light the world on fire the moment Capela shows up, and they got extremely lucky, it probably still doesn't happen. I mean, they're 9 games out? 9.5. 9.5 games out. Granted, the only team they really have to leapfrog, it's probably the Magic, but even so, I don't think it's going to happen. But that doesn't mean the Hawks still can't be respectable and entertaining the rest of the way. So, yeah, they made their swing. It's not like the massive swing. If they really want to go crazy, they'll get off of some of these young guys, but they definitely they knocked down their first domino with Capela.